When aiming to impress others with words, verbosity can diminish uniqueness and control. Even mundane statements can appear original when expressed vaguely, leaving an air of mystery. Powerful individuals impress and intimidate by saying less, as the more one speaks, the higher the likelihood of saying something foolish. Gnaeus Marcius, renowned as Coriolanus, emerged as a celebrated military hero of ancient Rome during the first half of the 5th century BC. His numerous victories on the battlefield earned him widespread acclaim, yet his personal interactions remained limited, shrouding him in a veil of legend. In 454 BC, Coriolanus decided to leverage his esteemed reputation by entering the political arena, vying for the esteemed position of consul. During his initial address to the public, he showcased the countless scars amassed from 17 years of devoted service to Rome. While his subsequent lengthy speech went largely unheard, the sight of his battle-worn body moved the spectators to tears, solidifying his candidacy. However, on polling day, Coriolanus made a grand entrance into the forum, accompanied by the Senate and city's aristocracy, a display that unsettled the common people. His ensuing speech, directed primarily at the wealthy citizens, brimmed with arrogance and insolence. Disdainful remarks, self-aggrandizement, and sour humor alienated the populace, revealing him as more braggart than hero. News of Coriolanus's haughty demeanor spread swiftly, prompting a surge of opposition against his candidacy. Defeated and embittered, he retreated to the battlefield, harboring resentment towards those who had rejected him. Upon his return to Rome, amidst a critical food distribution vote, Coriolanus condemned the concept of democracy and advocated for exclusive patrician rule. This incited widespread anger among the populace, leading to riots and demands for his apology. Facing condemnation from the tribunes and the threat of death, Coriolanus begrudgingly addressed the people one final time. Initially speaking softly, his tone grew increasingly blunt and disdainful, provoking further outrage. Ultimately, the enraged crowd silenced him, and the tribune sentenced him to lifelong banishment, sparing him from the originally proposed execution. Had Coriolanus exercised restraint in his speech, he could have preserved the illusion of his power and likely secured his election as consul. He might have advanced his anti-democratic agenda unhindered. Yet, mastering the tongue proves elusive for many, as it constantly seeks to break free from restraint, causing untold trouble when left unchecked. Indeed, power eludes those who squander their words. On the other hand, in the royal court of Louis XIV, nobles and ministers devoted extensive time to discussing state matters. Eventually, pivotal decisions would lead to the selection of 2 representatives to present contrasting viewpoints directly to Louis. Approaching the king was always a delicate task. Once granted his attention, they would thoroughly outline the available options. Louis would remain silent, wearing an enigmatic expression as he listened. Once each presenter had concluded and sought his opinion, he would respond with a simple, "I shall see," before departing. Subsequently, the ministers and courtiers received no further communication from the king on the matter. Instead, weeks later, they would witness his decision and subsequent actions without further consultation. In his youth, Louis was renowned for his verbosity, relishing in his own eloquence. However, his later quietness was a deliberate choice, a facade employed to keep those beneath him unsettled. His reserved demeanor left others uncertain of his intentions and unable to anticipate his responses. No one could attempt to manipulate him by telling him what they assumed he desired to hear, because his true desires remained inscrutable. As they talked on and on to the silent Louis, they unwittingly disclosed details about themselves, which he later utilized to his advantage. As Saint Simon wrote, "No one knew as well as he how to sell his words, his smile, even his glances. Everything in him was valuable because he created differences, and his majesty was enhanced by the sparseness of his words. Power often hinges on the perception of one's actions, and speaking less than necessary invariably conveys greater authority and strength. Your silence can unsettle others who, driven by their instinct to interpret and understand, will struggle to discern your intentions. By meticulously controlling what you disclose, you shield your motives and significance from scrutiny. Your succinct responses and pauses will prompt others to become defensive, leading them to fill the silence with revealing comments that expose their vulnerabilities. Departing from interactions with you, they'll feel as though they've been outmaneuvered, obsessively analyzing your every word. This heightened attention to your concise remarks will only amplify your influence. The strategy of speaking less than necessary isn't exclusive to kings and statesmen. In various spheres of life, the less one speaks, the more profound and mysterious they appear. Artist Andy Warhol grasped this concept early on, realizing that attempting to persuade people through conversation often backfired. He discovered that his power increased when he remained silent. In his later years, Warhol employed this strategy with remarkable success. During interviews, he delivered cryptic and enigmatic statements, leaving interviewers scrambling to decipher his words, assuming there was depth behind his seemingly meaningless phrases. Warhol seldom discussed his own work, preferring to let others interpret it. He credited Marcel Duchamp, another artist known for his enigmatic persona, with teaching him this technique. Duchamp understood that the less he revealed about his art, the more people speculated and discussed it, consequently increasing its value. In 1825, Nicholas assumed the Russian throne amidst a rebellion led by liberals advocating for modernization and advancement in line with Europe. Quashing this uprising, known as the Decembrist Uprising, Nicholas sentenced one of its leaders, Kondraty Ryleyev, to death. On the day of Rylyev's scheduled execution, the rope broke as he stood on the gallows, causing him to fall to the ground. Such occurrences were often interpreted as signs of divine intervention, typically resulting in a pardon. Bruised and disheveled, but believing he had been spared, Ryleyev exclaimed to the crowd, "In Russia, they can't even make a proper rope." A messenger promptly conveyed news of the failed hanging to the Winter Palace. Although vexed by this turn of events, Nicholas initially began to prepare a pardon. However, when he learned of Rylyev's disparaging remark about Russian craftsmanship, he swiftly changed his mind. In response to the messenger's report, Nicholas decided to demonstrate the quality of Russian rope-making. Consequently, Ryleyev was hanged again the following day, and this time, the rope did not break. Once uttered, words cannot be retracted. It is imperative to exercise control over them. Exercise caution, especially with sarcasm, as the fleeting gratification derived from sharp remarks is eclipsed by the consequences that follow.